Hello everyone, I'm Xiaogang. We're going to start writing attributes now, writing our TubeZet. TubeZet is the attribute because we were using auxiliary dictionaries before. Now we need to have attributes. Let's change the name first. Change the name. For this TubeZet, let's first define a parent class that we all use, and then define another parent class that we need. We'll just put all the attributes together. And then actually you can add character attributes. Depending on building attributes, weapon attributes, equate attributes, etc. But here we'll just put them all together for easier learning. Then here we'll include the header file first and also include the reflection file. Then here we'll also include the header file in the source file. Okay. After the report is completed like this, let's write them one by one. Actually, this forward declaration can be ignored. It will be used later. Just paste it directly. Then we need to define a macro here. As for this macro, I copied it from Never. Actually, I can write it myself too. Just write it like this yourself. These macros mainly provide us with properties and help us generate some methods. You can see, that is, this red, it will create these methods. For example, if you specify here such a property, such a class, it will help you create and get this property, and also set, modify, and initialize these methods. It's that simple. Then we prepare a delegate here. This delegate is for us. When this property is modified, we can use this delegate to, that is, modified web property. Pass it to the blueprint, and then modify our UI. Modify our component. So this agent is made this way. It is a Milky case. It is a multi-wave with 6 parameters. Then these parameters are actually literal in meaning. That is, which game skill is being modified and how much it has been modified. Then take on a new role. Who initiated it and who is affected, etc. We will start writing our topic set. We will just paste it directly. It's relatively simple. It actually inherits from the cubic set. Then what he notes is we just write these two methods and that's it. We can take a look at his source code comments. Let's skip over there. It defines a series of attribute sets within our jar. Then these attributes, we often use things like health and damage to work with them. And this part tells you how to create it more appropriately. Okay, that's roughly the situation. Okay, so let's write them one by one. Then in the attributes section, we create its implementation. In the implementation, we don't need to write anything. Then we need to override getWorld. Because you know our U-bots, sometimes it needs to override getWorld. If you don't override it, it might not know which world it is in. So here, we can directly get its outer, because our attribute set will be attached to our ASC on this character. So you can just use outer and return the world of that outer. This is fine. This world can be declared for everyone. Avoid him not knowing what this class is. Then here we need to get our current ASC, because our attribute set must definitely be attached to the attributes. At this point, we just need to convert these methods from its parent over to it. Okay, let's first ensure it won't cause a compilation error. You'll see that we no longer have compilation errors here. And now we learn where we truly need to implement the attributes, because our parent class is just for convenience in defining things. Similarly, we still need to include the reflection file, and we should include it in this source file. Okay. Then after finishing, we add a comment, so everyone can easily understand this property. It is very important. Then here, we inherit from the TubeZet class we just wrote. We will write the code line by line. Okay. First, we definitely need a constructor. Okay. We won't implement it yet. Let's write the properties one by one first. Okay. We'll make the properties private director. Then our first attribute is the damage attribute. which is used by professionals to record damage, because we may sometimes need damage and need to calculate it before modifying it based on the attribute value. So this is the damage used to calculate damage. Originally, we also had a heal here. We don't need this heal. We only need 1 damage. Okay, and then we now have a level, meaning the player has a level. We may not use these attributes, but we will still write them out. Then health, then our maximum health, right? Then for health, actually, we still need to write more things here. But before we continue writing, let's ignore it for now. Let's define the attributes first. Then this is our mana, then our maximum mana, then our stamina. We only define the stamina here, but we won't be using it. Then this attack and defense, that is attack and defense. We will use these two later. We also define this X, but we won't use it either. Put this directly here. Everyone can extend it later. Then, after you must connect the properties, you need to take these properties and create corresponding methods for them. We create them through red. So placing it here is fine. We just write this red here. And here, we need to delete this hail. Don't use this hail. Everything else is okay. Alright, then let's take a look. Next, because all these properties you will find need to be network synchronized. If we need network synchronization, we need to write out the network synchronization methods. So we'll just directly copy these methods over all at once and put them here. This part might look like a lot. It looks like a lot, but actually it's just one thing. It's just that it's renamed. The functionality is different. So here we are creating these methods. That's why you find it very confusing. So I just decided to write it all out at once. Otherwise, if I keep explaining, everyone will just keep getting confused. Okay, so here a property is created. For the property, create the corresponding initialization, set and set method. Then network synchronization will activate this method. Actually, if you strip it down, it's just 3 lines. Just 3 lines. Please don't be afraid. Please don't be afraid. Then when this attribute changes, we need other components to be able to perceive it. So we are going to prepare several delegates here. That is, health changed, max health changed. When our health goes beyond, that is to say, this health value is out of, that is when it is below 0. That is the mana value, right? Yes, okay. So here are several delegates. These delegates are defined earlier here. That is defined in the parent class. It is defined right here. Because some special events occurred, after we calculate the result, we need to make it easy to propagate. Okay, so next we will still write out all the methods for everyone. Then right here, we need to add a few values. That is, we have a Boolean value. That is whether to track whether this parent nor event has occurred. Right, and we need to record, that is, our previous, that is, before we make a change. Okay, with these values, let's hook them into the function. We'll initialize it. Okay, so for this initialization, I'll just copy it over. We've written some random values here. But these values, well, later, normally need to be read from a table. We'll just simulate it for now. Health, max health, mana, MaxMana, okay? Note that there is no damage here, because damage is just a temporary value. But we definitely didn't do this at the beginning. Then we modify this value. We can set it to 00F here. That works. It initializes to 0. Then pay attention. Here we need to write a method. As for this method, actually, it looks very familiar to everyone. Right, look at this method. This method should look very familiar to everyone. Right, and we talked about property synchronization before. We would often write this method. So this method is meant to synchronize these properties of ours. Just synchron. In some way, here we simply set everything to default, so it looks like a lot. But actually, it's just one line of code a meaning. Okay, alright, so basically at this point, we are almost ready. Then we will continue to refine and supplement. This attribute just can't help it. It's just like this. It's just this many things. Then we come here. Here we need to override 5 methods. These 5 methods are all very important. This is when we apply our game effect. It will trigger this method before applying. Then after applying, it will call this method. Let's override them all first. Then we'll write another method here, which is a method to do a value client. Okay, let's write the client method first. We'll just check our current attribute state, whether it is health. If it is health, we need to clamp that value between the maximum values, right? If it is the maximum value, we cannot let it go below 0. This should be easy to understand. Because your maximum health definitely cannot be 0. At least it should be 1, right? Your minimum health cannot be less than 0. Otherwise, it will show a negative number. That would be wrong. So this is a method called clamp attribute. This attribute is what describes this property. That is what we have here. As you can see, let's go back to our part here. All the attributes we have here are this attribute data, right? And this part is just checking whether our AttributeData data equals the current get AttributeData data. Where does this method get herald trip come from? It is generated through our macro. It corresponds to this. Exactly this. You see, that is, the getSet methods here are all generated through our macro. Let me emphasize this again, because if you haven't used it, you might not know. That is, here you can see getSet and AttributeSet. You see, it is generated through this macro. Okay, come back. Then next, we will modify this pre-give thing. How should we write it? First of all, we usually remove the parent class, but you can click it. Sometimes the parent class is actually meaningless. It could be. We can take a look. This side looks a bit messy. I'll refresh the project here. Okay, after refreshing, it will be easier for everyone to see. Then, before we make the modification, let's save this value, because we might use it. So save it. We just need to set this to true. Okay, then after our modification, we need to make the judgment. First, let's adjust the float. Adjust the float. Then here, we need to make many judgments. First of all, we need to get that is, we will pass a data. Through this effect spec, we get this context. Get the context of our skill system. Then we need to get that is, the instigator and the affected party. Something that then first we need to determine if what we are passing in now is a damage value, right? Then we only need to make a simple modification to our health. We'll simply modify it. As for this Milo health, we set it to 0.0, which is the minimum health value. We set it to 0.0. That works here too. If damage is passed in, we just modify our health to the corresponding damage value. Then if we pass in health value next, we can just modify the health value directly. Then if we are passing this maximum health value, we can directly modify this maximum health value. Look here, of course, when we modify it here, for this maximum health value, we might need to broadcast it. Yes. This way, it will prompt. We have a modification to the maximum health value here. We can test this. Okay, this is the delegate we defined earlier, and here we might need to set our max health. We can just set it directly. Let's add a comment here. Because you need health points, it might appear overflow means your maximum health decreases. This situation, we don't need to go into it deeply. Here we will set max health. Then, it should not be needed here. This part should have been modified, so we just need to broadcast here. Okay, next, let's handle the smaller value. This smaller value means if it gets modified, we cannot let it exceed our maximum mala value. So we need to limit it here. And if it's the maximum manage, we just need to broadcast it. Okay, that's it. Okay, it seems we didn't include the same key here. That's why it keeps showing red errors. Let's just copy the same key over. Okay, the red errors should all be gone now. Alright, next, for these attribute values, after we have determined and modified them all, we need to make a judgment. If the current health value is different from the previous health value, it has become different. So the health value changes again. That's why we broadcast. This health value has changed. If this health value is less than or equal to 0, that means we have triggered this death event. So we need to take the out of health and handle this thing. Just do this broadcast. This broadcast is the same. You can see, pass the health value out. Then next, we mainly need to also make a judgment on the health value here. It's possible its health will be pulled back. Yeah, so make another confirmatory judgment like this. And over here, we'll just call the parent class directly. Okay, this is where, when an attribute changes, we first call the parent class. If the maximum health has changed, we'll do it this way. We get the ASC. We give it something equivalent to, ensuring that the current health does not exceed the maximum health. You can see here, actually, if your current health exceeds our 66, this 66 happens to be the maximum health value. So we change the current health value to that. This is a validation check, and this part is mainly for determining whether it is already 0, but health is only greater than 0, to ensure consistency. Okay. Basically, this attribute set should be done. It's quite complex. Because okay, let's see if it compiles successfully. We haven't finished writing yet. Here, we haven't written this unreply yet. We still need to write the unreply again. Okay. You see, it prompts here. For our unreply, we will uniformly create its implementation. Okay, as for this damage, we can just write it like this. And as for this hail, we should delete it, right? We won't need this hail for now. Okay, we'll delete this hail. And as for this level, we can just sync it directly. And then this part is glued incorrectly. We need to do some processing for this health. First of all, we still give it this health. But then on the client side here, because of this part, we need to broadcast it. We need to broadcast right here. Because just now, when handling the property broadcast, it might only exist on the server. If the client receives this synchronization but doesn't broadcast it, it might not even know that the health value has changed. It's not easy for the client to modify this change. So this part is the client side. On the client side, we also need to broadcast it. As for this Mala, it's the same because we didn't conduct the supernatural experiment on this Mala. So we'll just ignore it. This is our MaxMana. As for the rest, it's the same because we haven't added the logic yet. This part is mainly to allow the client to update, up-to-date, and notify the UI of this number. So we added this extra code for activating the proxy. Okay, this part seems OEC, DETEP. Cool. Let's move it to another position. Okay, let's compile it now. Basically, for the attribute set, we'll stop here. It should be basically fine. Let's check it first. It should pass compilation. After we finish writing the AttributeSet, we need to associate it with our ASC. Link it up. We need to do some work on the character. Let's go to our character base. In the character base, we'll do it in the constructor function. Okay, right here, we should do this after the ASC is set up. We need to use a pointer to point to our character set. Then we may need to include it here. So we need to prepare such a pointer. We will place this pointer under our ASC. Because it is specifically used to uphold our player's attributes, we prevent it from being reclaimed by GC. Once we have such an attribute, we go back here. Then we can create such an attribute set. Then at this point, we can start our project. to see if we have such an attribute set. And now, let's start it again in this way. Good, then let's open this. Press 3. Then you'll see we really have our attribute. This is our 2b6. Good, okay. Good, so we'll stop here for this lesson.